Hey guys, welcome back. Ashley D. Will here, author, teacher, life coach. Today I want to share with you some stories, some true stories that have happened to me that I wrote about, and these are on my blog at ashleydwill.wordpress.com. And I was just hoping that it would help you to see the Lord in a deeper way, or a closer way, or a better way. So I have 4 stories here I want to read to you, and I hope these will be helpful to you. This story is called Hes Alive. Years ago, late one autumn, in our Living Waters small group, we finished sharing issues and stood in a circle to pray over the needs of the group. We bowed our heads, and one by one we took turns as usual. During the middle of the prayer, however, I opened my eyes slightly and took a deep breath to refocus as one member continued her lengthy prayer. During these moments, I caught the movement of my name tag clipped to my yellow blouse. I noticed that it was pulsating in rhythm with my heartbeat. The distinct and delicate movement, bouncing like a cardiogram, touched me so I couldn't close my eyes. It appeared as a symphony, my blood flow gently directing the beat of the name tag with, of course, my name on it. It carried great significance for me, as my dad is a cardiologist. I kept staring at it. Recently, I had been praying to God to reveal Himself living within me, and was doing so regularly with little secret surprises. At that moment during the prayer, totally unexpected, I got another one. "I'm alive in here," He announced to me hospitably. A huge grin burst on my face, and my eyes welled with tears of awe. Trying to contain myself, I forced my eyes closed while my brain must have been shooting sparks out of my ears. Through the rest of the prayers, I managed to stand semi-composed, overwhelmed, and unable to put my experience into words. As we closed out, the group disbanded. Some lingered, talking together, while I quietly slipped out the door, bursting into flames of thanksgiving. So this is a story about me wanting to grow closer to the Lord and wanting to know, not just in my head that He was alive inside me, but in my heart. I wanted an experiential reality of that truth, and He gave it to me. So that's what that story is about. Okay, so the second story is a little bit different. It is about one of my friends. I remember my good friend, a scientist, sharing with me her wonderful story of coming to know Christ the Creator. Out in the woods on a field trip with her botany class one morning, she had wandered off from the group in excited hyperfocus, exploring rare flowers. Overwhelmed to stumble upon her absolutely favorite flower of all, she knelt beside it, gently cradling the exquisite petals in her fingers. "This is so beautiful," she exclaimed spontaneously out loud to herself in delight, knowing that no one was around to hear her. Immediately she heard a friendly and audible "Thank you." Right away, she knew that it was the voice of the Creator acknowledging her appreciation. But hearing Him terrified her so that she quickly tore back through the woods to the safety and company of the group, the botany class. From that day on, though, she knew for sure that the Creator spoke to her, and she began seeking Him with all of her heart. She expressed to me, in hindsight, her profound thankfulness for the supernatural intervention, because having been so limited in her mindset, she knew that she needed that encounter to break her out of her limitations and jumpstart her new and exciting life of science-based faith. So that's the story about my friend being out in the woods looking for special flowers and things they were studying, and she exclaimed how beautiful this one of her favorite flowers was, and the Lord answered her audibly in the woods and said, "Thank you." It freaked her out, so she ran back, but it made a huge impact on her. So that is something that the Lord does. Okay, the next story, the number 3 story, is about me again. This one is not very long. During the blurred years of young motherhood, I remember the Lord directing me to go visit a metaphysical class at a New Age bookstore. After resisting Him off and on for weeks, I finally gave in and drove out there one winter evening. I don't recall all the details, but I do remember sitting in a circle in a darkened room with 5 men wondering why in the world I was there. The leader rambled on, recounting his experiences as a youngster trying to move objects with his willpower and his current pursuit of teaching his children to speak to objects to give the objects power to obey. The leader eventually went through a long list of questions, probably homework for the group from the previous week. Each man sat heavy in his humanity as he contemplated the questions asked. Honestly, I was just quietly waiting for the release to leave. The last of his questions was something like, "So, have any of you ascended?" Immediately, I knew why I was there. I smiled and raised my hand. "Yes, I have," I said. All the faces went limp, as if I had just dropped a rotten egg in the middle of the circle. 2 of the men looked down at their feet. One fumbled with his pen. The other looked over at me as if I were the bastard at a family reunion. The leader put his elbows on his knees, looking down at his list, and responded half-heartedly to me, looking up with dread, inviting me to explain myself. "I was dead, and now I'm alive," I said. "Christ has raised me from the dead." The awkwardness was palpable. Obviously uncomfortable, he quickly segued into a deep discussion on the relationship between metaphysics and astrophysics. When the group closed, I took a faded receipt out of my wallet and printed Hugh Ross's website address, reasons.org, on the back. I left it there on top of his spiral notebook as I shuffled out the door. He's alive. I'm so relieved that it is not my responsibility to save people or solve their problems, or manage their lives, or fix the world, or worry about life. It's so simple and so beautiful just to rest, listen to Him, and do what He says. So that story is one of my favorite ones. I remember that really well. The Lord was leading me to go to a metaphysical bookstore, and I just didn't like being in there. I didn't like the energy there. But He was pressing me, and I said, "Okay, this is you. I'm going to do it." And so it was fun being in there, just not knowing what was going to happen and feeling out of place and knowing that the Lord had me there. And I was just waiting, okay, why am I here? What am I going to do? And I just sat waiting, and He made it very clear, and I did it, and it felt great. Okay, the last story we have for story time today, true story time, is this story. It's called Limitless. And actually, I think this is my favorite one. Okay, do we limit God? I think we do. Years ago, I had been attempting to have a little talk with my husband, and this is like 25 years ago, and explain to him that with the ongoing sad, in my estimation, state of our relationship, that I was seriously struggling. I needed to share with him some personal things so that we could get all the cards on the table, clear the air, and move forward or see a counselor or whatever we needed to do. Okay, this situation went on and on and on forever, it seemed to me. And I didn't realize at that time that he was a procrastinator, but I learned that shortly after this event. All I encountered was his deafness or refusal to hear me or be willing to deal with the issues that we needed to discuss to get past. I kept thinking that maybe it wasn't the right time and maybe I should just try again at a better time. Needless to say, after months of giving him the benefit of the doubt, I realized that the conversation was not going to happen at all, and I was starting to lose it. So, gritting my teeth, I prayed, Lord, we have a mule on our hands, and you've got the 2x4. Have at it. I'm done with this. Prayer totally forgotten. A few months later, hubby and I were out on our date night together. We decided to check out the small Chinese restaurant that my late grandmother had always recommended to us, but we never got a chance to go to. As we entered, I immediately noticed, sitting alone at a small corner table, a dark Middle Eastern man. By dark, I mean to say that he carried a very dark spirit. I didn't know the details, but it was outstanding to me. Behind the hostess and my husband, I followed, passing by the stranger. We did not make eye contact, but he knew that I was very aware of him spiritually and he of me. Anyway, the hostess seated us in the same section of the restaurant, but across the room from him. We ordered our drinks, perused the menu, and chatted while we waited to order. There was something about this man sitting across the room from us. I was distracted by his unusually dark presence and again took notice of him discreetly between our conversations. The waitress returned with our drinks and we ordered our food. Everything went along normally until the middle of our entree. At that point in the evening, we got a little surprise. Across the room, I could see the man in my peripheral vision. He finished his meal, wiped his mouth, and sat seriously contemplative for a few moments. He then stood up and walked directly toward our table. Standing between my husband and me, he spoke discreetly and very intensely. "Excuse me," he said, making eye contact with both of us apologetically. "I am a psychic," he continued. "I don't want to interrupt your dinner. But, sir," he faced my husband, "your woman here," gesturing toward me, "she is in love with another man. You must know this." My husband, nearly choking on his food, quickly grabbed his napkin and covered his mouth, coughing. Slowly regaining his composure, he made eye contact with the man, acknowledging his message. The man nodded back adieu and exited the restaurant. As for me, I sat trying with all my might to contain an avalanche of relief and laughter as I suddenly remembered my long-lost prayer. I took a very deep breath and held my tongue with a large steel trap as I allowed my husband to slowly digest the message. Yes, I think we limit God. I really do. With all of our little formulas, rituals, mnemonics, acrostics, parental and double-minded projections we come up with to simplify and understand God, attempting to squeeze him into our human-sized boxes, wrapped with our pretty paper and fancy bows, we tend to forget that God is limitless in many ways. Do we believe that God can actually fit inside of our little boxes? Dare we untie our bows, tear off the paper, and open our God boxes to let him show us who he really is? Would we put it past God to summon a psychic to deliver an overdue message to a mule? How big is your God? That is story number 4. So those are the 4 true stories I wanted to share with you today. The Lord is really drawing the true sheep closer and closer to him. He wants the true sheep to know him as he is, not as portrayed by man, not as we limit him in our own logic boxes and human understanding and human experiences, but as the God that he is, omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. He is sovereign. He is also at the same time extremely delicate, humble, and sensitive and intimate. And he wants us to know him at that level in our personal lives. So I hope that some of the stories, at least one, touched your heart or spoke to you in some way. And I pray that you would get to know the Lord in a deeper, more intimate way so that you could literally experience Him in your daily life regularly, if not often, if not hour to hour. All right, so that's my prayer for you. And I pray that you would like, subscribe, and share this video so that it can get out for more people to view it. All right, thank you guys, and I'll see you soon.